know us, so well, one over here. Lovely lady. She's gonna get me fat. You know, have you been in there? Oh, the candies are from your youth, let alone, you know, my youth. I mean, Necco wafers, Necco wafers. Is that impossible to find? Is that really impressive?
Maybe a version of old stuff.
No, I looked at them, they're recently made under license, so. Another Necco factory was in Cambridge, Massachusetts. You can smell it every morning. Boy, that's sick.
Yeah, it was a part of the that's for sure.
This is me old.
Maybe Tom Rhodes was his in your packet. And just quickly, because I had a list in my hand, I'm not quickly seeing Tom Rhodes.
No, and I did get one from them.
Did you see that?
I saw it by email.
Okay, so I just want to circle ones that maybe. Janet Rigby's is in here.
Yeah, Janet's is in there. Gary Kiss is in there.
Peg Odell's is in there. I'm thinking, did that come to just me?
Pegs came to me late last night.
Pegs, but it got in here, right?
I don't see it in here.
Okay, so that's one I might have to mention. Peg Odell's, Tom Rhodes. Is Nancy Herman's in here?
I didn't get his.
You didn't see that one?
No.
Okay, let me just double check with you.
Sorry, that's the problem with the windows.
No, they were gonna meet me, but I always call them. I cannot quite see this going.
It is 5 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and please rise for the I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I open the public hearing, I'm going to mention all the correspondence we received. Some of it did not, were by email and might have gone to the board members and might not have been included here, but I am going to enumerate the letters which will all be part of the official record for this meeting. In support of the law for mask wearing, we received these letters in support. Jim and Barbara Tung, 42 Walnut. Robin Lettuce, Eagle Street. Catherine Tuttle, River Street. Chip Northrup, River Street. Ann and Richard Lady, Grove Street. Bonnie and Kent Jones, 13 Fernley Drive. Peg Odell, 6 Maple. Bill Waller, 66 Beaver. Beth Alirxick and Ron Littell, Pioneer Street. Gary Kiss, Leatherstocking. Nancy Herman, Mill Street. Janet Rigby, Elm Street. Tom Rhodes, Elm Street. Simone Shaheen, Route 31, Within the Village. Elena Rose, Normandy Alden, 15 Hill Street. Lou Allstat, 18 Main. Melinda Harden, 18 Main. Judith Greenberg, 63 Lake. Bassett Medical Center, signed by Dr. William LePage, President. Megan and Chris Brennan, 24 Nelson. Jesse Ravitch, 34 Delaware. Baseball Hall of Fame, signed by Tim Mead and Jane Clark. We also received 4 letters in support from non-residents. Dr. John Davis, Kelly Brannigan, Julie Huntsman, and Bill Elsley, Town of Springfield. Opposed to the law and to adoption of the law. And again, these letters will all be included in the record. Chris Brady, 109 Lake Street, Sue Fink and Lori Fink, Tyndon Alley, and Kelly Banner. I'm not sure of the residents. Before I open it, I also want to kind of review some of the questions we received in case it answers any questions that people might have. Several of the emails we received sort of against the law and or personal conversations asked, why? Why do we need this law? And to a degree, we covered that. I'm always a little surprised. This law was legally noticed. Hard copies were here at the village office since a day after our meeting when we adopted it. We also have made it available within a day on our website. So the law has been there for review, but the why is basically covered in J of 241-1, findings and purpose. Basically, our village has a very compact business district within which is contained a large portion of our retail and commercial business and our historical and tourist attractions. The thing to remember is that we allowed on-street dining in an effort to help our Main Street businesses have that outdoor vending space. not just on-street dining, but also merchandise. Businesses can put their vending table on public property, the sidewalk, adjacent to their business. This greatly reduces the amount of space available on our sidewalk for social distancing. When you take into consideration, we have trees, we have trash receptacles, we have various benches, etc. It becomes physically impossible to provide a 6-foot separation. So that is the reason we feel in this particular area of the village, that law is necessary. We were asked where. There were comments that it really should apply to Lakefront Park or Fish Road, areas seen as congested, as well as Lower Pioneer, northern part of Pioneer. The issue there is, yes, there might be some congregating in the park or people launching boats, but there is room to physically separate if need be. So we did not include those. Some people ask how long you're going to keep this in effect. And again, that is answered within the law under section 241-7. This law may only be enforced during the time that a declaration of emergency is issued by the New York State governor due to an epidemic or disease outbreak that is communicable through droplet contact or airborne transmission. Some people were not aware that as of March 7th, 2020, an executive order, New York State Governor Cuomo's executive order 202, we've been in a state of emergency. The date has been extended several times as the pandemic has not disappeared. Just last week, that state of emergency was extended to September 4th. It's probably consistent with logic that if we don't have a resolution by September 4th, the executive order will again extend that declaration of emergency. So as long as that is in effect, this law would be in effect. Some people said we don't need a law. We should just be suggesting that people wear masks. Rather than having a mask mandate. Actually, this village board in June tried exactly that. We created a Masks on Main program. We had magnets, we had signage in storefront windows, and we basically said, please wear a mask while enjoying downtown Cooperstown. But unfortunately, both locals and visitors did not abide by a suggestion. There have been some very good kind of points raised when people did read the law, and I would like to just quickly go over 6 changes that we will possibly include for the board's consideration. And again, these were raised by people who very thoughtfully had read the law and had concerns, and or board members who had concerns. The first change is on the 3rd page, under I, the second sentence. When we proposed this law, we basically said within the last week, the governor has announced a travel advisory which requires travelers from 31 states. For those keeping track, we're now at 34 states plus Puerto Rico. So rather than make this seem slightly outdated, our village attorney, who unfortunately could not be here this evening, recommended this wording change. The second, so we're looking at that second sentence, delete within the last week, make the T capital. So now it reads, the governor has announced a travel advisory which requires travelers from U.S. states experiencing severe COVID-19 outbreaks to self-quarantine for a period of 14 days after entering New York State. We are also deleting the number of states, the 31. Down on definitions, 241-2, to make it clearer for face masks and face coverings, this clause will be added after "and face shields, comma, any one of which must cover the nose and mouth of the wearer." So any one of which must cover the nose and mouth of the wearer. On the next page, clause C under 241-3 is being shifted to 241-4 is just a single line. It will not have a number associated with it. So it will now read, business owners, plural, may be found in violation of this law and be fined for not adhering to the provisions of this law within or within their business premises. There is a typo in 241-5 under exception B in the last sentence, but within the area designated is section 241-3A. So it has a typo, it was R in this area. Under 241-5 exceptions, letter E, it has been recommended that it read, individuals are not required to wear a face mask or face covering when they are stationary, comma, seated, insert, or standing while actively eating and or drinking, or while seated within a village restaurant's approved outdoor eating area. I know there's been a lot of discourse about people walking about with food and the dilemma of that. So basically, if they're stationary, if the mom and dad are seated on the bench and the kids are stationary next to it, it's handling that situation. And that, I think, was it for the good suggestions and changes made to the board and the village attorney. I will now read the guidelines for public comment. Speakers must stand, give their name, address, and if they're representing any organization, let us know that. I will recognize you. Speakers must limit their remarks to 5 minutes on this topic. Speaker, I will allow each person to speak 1 time on that topic. If you don't use 5 minutes, you can't yield it to someone else who then speaks for 10 minutes. Trustees may, if they ask permission of the mayor, interrupt the speaker during their remarks, but only to clarify a point. There is no debate back and forth. This is our time to listen to you. All remarks should be addressed to the board as a body and not to any single member thereof. And we ask that you observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. All right. I don't know if one of you has a timer. That would help me immensely. Thank you, Richard. So, the first, anyone like to speak? Yes.
Hi, I'm Mark Kingsley, in Cooperstown, also 12 Chestnut and 180 Main. First, I want to say I appreciate you all the village boards do. I understand they're made up of volunteers. I realize some decisions are difficult and will not be popular with everyone. I also feel the board should keep an open mind and listen to the constituents before making up their mind on the subject. The proposed mask law. I really don't understand why the village is pursuing this, because I understand that New York State already passed a law requiring almost everyone to wear a mask in public. I say almost everyone because there's some under a certain age or have an issue and have an exemption. And a mask in public, and social distancing cannot be done. And also telling businesses they must enforce mask use or deny entry if they refuse. So this proposed law to me is redundant, overreaching, and an overreaction by the village or the trustees. And while I commend the village for thinking about the safety and well-being of everyone, the statistics show we have a very low case and death rate, so I really don't know why you feel we need yet another law. Depending on which news article or website you read, Otsego County has either 109 or 116 confirmed cases, now there's 6 or 4 deaths. According to the New York State Department of Health website, Otsego County has tested 14,997 people, has 116 confirmed cases and 4 deaths. In the past 8 days, 1,364 have been tested, with 4 confirmed cases and 0 deaths. Since mid-June, New York State as a whole is steadily tracking down with the number of cases confirmed and deaths. Yes, we want everyone to be safe, and we don't want cases or deaths to start increasing again. That would be bad. There are several ways to contract COVID-19 with droplets being leading cause. One can also contract COVID-19 by touching contaminated surface. Wearing a mask is a great idea, but so is cleaning and disinfecting surfaces. As a lodging property, we enforce wearing a mask, social distancing. Additionally, we increased our cleaning, disinfecting, apply touch points, use of hand sanitizer, initiate several other protocols for guest and employee safety. If the village and board of trustees really care about the safety and well-being of everyone, one would think you would address contracting COVID-19 by contacting a high touch point on Main Street and take steps to help mitigate those areas. As I state, you're only focusing on mask wearing and an absolutely obscene fine if caught not wearing one. What about contracting COVID-19 by contact? I want to hear how you're going to mitigate possible transmission when people touch the crosswalk buttons, trash receptacle handles, paid parking kiosks, benches up and down Main Street, tables and chairs in Pioneer Park, TV screen at the health kiosk in Pioneer Park. I see tens, if not hundreds of people touching them on a daily basis. So how are you going to ensure they are cleaned and disinfected? We would find our home responsible for not keeping those items clean. I mean, as a business, we're required to do that. Restaurants have to clean tables and chairs between guests. Price Shopper has to clean everything before the next guest goes on there. So in closing, I do not agree with the law. There's already a law in place for this. You're just one of several tourist destinations in the state. Approving this law and fine structure is a huge negative for Cooperstown and will drive away guests, local and tourists, and further hurt many local businesses which have already been hit hard. Instead, why aren't we focusing on positives what the village and businesses are already doing to help keep the locals and visiting guests safe? Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Marge, there's
Marjorie Neighbors, Page 1 Avenue. I'm here not to question any part of the proposed law, but to offer my support to the village and also for the law. I believe, as a nurse, that the health experts are telling us that unless we wear masks for a minimum of 2 weeks to 4 weeks at a minimum, that we are not going to conquer this disease. And you know, it's easy to say, as Mark said, that we've been very fortunate, I believe, here and feel a little bit safer than other areas. But we have a tremendous influx, maybe not as much as usual, but we still have an influx of tourists coming in. And I believe if we don't do that we are going to see a big uptick in cases. And I just wish that the entire village will support the board and support you in carrying out this law. I believe it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm sorry, yes, go ahead. Yeah, if you can do it in 5 minutes. All right.
My name is John Reed, for Chestnut Street. The question I have is in subparagraph I, where it was proposed deletion of the 31 U.S. states. I think without any more, that creates a little bit of an ambiguity there. Because there should be some way to identify the states that are suffering those outbreaks. And I would suggest that after the United States, words like designated or nominated by the governor as experiencing severe flooding, so that this number would fluctuate over time, and we won't have an ambiguity. Someone say that it can't be found, the state is not on the list at that time.
Thank you, John. Next, Neil?
Neil Wilder, 83 Lake Street, and business. I have a question. As somebody who's doing this, and in the front lines, I always support the efforts. And people, I don't believe it goes far. This is one restriction to the business district. And when it takes one transmission, I work on golf, I work out of town. I've passed tons of people on golf, it's a percentage of people I pass. It's a much higher percentage of people not wearing masks than I see on the roads. Completely anecdotal, last week, I was 12 people, 2 masks, 10 people, 1 mask, 8 people, 2 masks, 7 people, 1 mask. That was just in Chestnut and to my own way down the hospital. Yep, and there's certainly far fewer than 6 feet for avoiding passing them. You have to allow people are not all contacted. All we have to do is drive on Chestnut Street to see it. Parking lots at grocery stores, pharmacies, and living stores, hospitals. People in there put on masks in the end of the store, and take it off on the outside, walk out the back. So my concern is, there's one fascinating, why just a business. And the second part is who's going to enforce this? In a day when the major retailers, Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, CVS, Walgreens, they said they will support the wearing masks, but they will not enforce it. And we're concerned for the security of their employees. Who's going to take their mask security? My employees or other residents. And some of these things we say that we don't agree with them, but the real world goes on days. It's a genuine concern. How do you tell if you don't know? You insist this doesn't wear a mask. And that's not the housing and putting it in force. And how are we going to let people know that this is a law? It's a great effort, a great community plan, I consider doing it in the pilot law. Because also if we have it just for the business district, we have to interpret that masks are not required outside of the business district. Should be able to. And this is the personal safety, the safety of our employees, and for our residents to actually enhance it. My personal experience, I've had no problems in storage. You see some on Main Street, they all have masks on there. So I'm just saying, we're trying to empower our citizens.
Thank you, Neil. Next.
John Badger, 64 Elm Street, representing myself and also Letters Talking Trails. I travel company here in Cooperstown, and I'm dealing with this every day with the various putting in, exclusions to whom can travel. I just have to follow up on Neil's, questions that I chose to ask before, and that is, who is going to enforce all of this? If they're seeing someone in a business or on Main Street not wearing a mask or social distancing? And also, how are people going to be aware that we have these mandates in place, other than just the banner across Main Street?
Since there have been two questions, if you don't mind, I will sort of respond to those. As far as signage, we actually, because we have a Masks on Main, we went ahead and ordered signage that will be in each kind of rain garden saying masks required. And they were not an extremely expensive item, but there were enough of them that will blanket our Main Street that we felt we should be proactive and go ahead and order, which we did. We have also looked at and developed the wording for additional signage. Some of you may remember our plastic sandwich board signs that we've used throughout the construction on Main Street saying businesses are open. So we ordered new panels for those that would essentially go at the areas that we are including in this zone. Main Street, Fair Street, sandwich board. Pine Boulevard, sandwich board. The corner of Main and Chestnut, we've also had them for Pioneer Street. We did not go ahead immediately and order them because they do list the area, just in case anything should change. We didn't want to expend several $100s, but we can quickly get those in. So that is the way we're going to do it. We've also spoken to the hall and we'll be asking them to have a sign there so that when people leave the Hall of Fame, they don't remove their masks. They know that they're entering our downtown where masks are necessary. Enforcement is going to be left to our police department for the most part. And we expect that more to be, shall I say, educational. I don't know if any of you have been aware that we have a safety station in Pioneer Park with masks, individually wrapped masks available to people, along with hand sanitizers. They've been rapidly used. Our officers will have a supply of masks and be giving those to anyone who does not have one. They also have been contacted by businesses who say, what if someone comes in and refuses? Well, no one can, quite frankly, be made to put on a mask. But at that point, the business owners, and they have already spoken, several of them, to our police department, would contact the police. The police would then escort the person off the premises because it's trespassing at that point if they will not comply. Enforcement is an issue, you know, let's admit it. There's a real anti-mask concept and people see it as infringing upon their rights, but all we're trying to do is to provide a level of safety for our visitors and our residents who are here. So we are not the first in New York State to do this local law. There have been several. One of the first ones was Newcastle on July 10th or so. And we have spoken to that police department and we know how they have been handling it. So we are going into this wrong. Other public comment?
My name is Jennifer Howard. My husband and I live in this stable on Main Street. We do have two businesses, unfortunately, we have a closed one. We're down about 90% for our business. I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to have tables on Main. It has helped us somewhat. I believe a lot of people come to our stores to wear masks, but everyone has. And people like that just forgotten we ask them to put their masks on. You find a lot of people on Main Street do wear masks when they don't wear. We live on Main and we work on Main, so we see people on Main Street on most. and the street is on front yard, and the patio is a backpack, so. We have 8-month-old puppy, and we walk her almost. So we take her out, we take her out 7 o'clock in the morning, midnight. And I don't, I'm probably not as long, I'm gonna be safe, but when I go out, I'd like to look and share it, and what people do. You take off your mask at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and you do it quick. My question is, 24-hour thing, do you have to, when I'm not walking my dog at midnight, do I have to wear a mask? In the middle of the night, without a mask on, and there's no environment. My question is, here's why we have tons of pictures here of Main Street with no people, 0 people, or like 2 people. And I'm just wondering if, when you're out with your family and you're walking the dog, or you're just out for a nice jog or something, you have to have masks, 11 o'clock at night or 7 a.m. Are you gonna?
The law as written is masks are required in the zone that we have defined within the law. We recognize that, 2 o'clock in the morning, are you going to be alone on that street? You can use your common sense. Would we have an officer there seeing you? But the bottom line is, everyone's looking for a loophole. And I'm sorry, this is the law. Yes.
Hi, Robert Nelson, 20 Fair Street. The gentleman, the police that are here, I think I'm on the phone a couple of times a week because of the trucks and the boat trailers. That totally has been taken care of. And I must commend the police department. I don't see how, I'm in favor of the law. I don't see how with the staff that the police department has at the moment that they could ever enforce this law. I think they go home, I'm not sure, I think they go home at 4 in the afternoon. You're here all day. I know they're not allowed time and a half. That I was told. So again, the law after 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, let's say. I guess that's the least. How is this going to be enforced? It's great to have a law, but then what? Thank you.
Yes.
I agree with wearing masks, everybody wears masks, and all the sanitization and do everything so that we can come back. We have a lot of people coming from all over, and we also have a lot of people that were here last night. I don't have a problem with everybody wearing masks, there's no problem with $1,000 fine. I think that's really high. How does anybody know unless you have proper signage? And maybe one of the places that you put the signage is on the paid parking, because that in itself is confusing enough for people when they come into the village. They don't know what to do, they don't want to pay. So maybe being that they have to pay, you should have a nice sign saying that they need to wear a mask so they know. So I don't think it's fair for somebody that doesn't know the village law to be fined $1,000, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. I mean, if you want to give a ticket, you do it at parking ticket, $35 or whatever. $1,000, I don't know who came up with that, or where that number is to be enforced. I think if you're trying to keep it a little area where people can feel comfortable coming to it, you're driving them away, because that's the experience itself. And somebody that may live in the village, read the newspaper, get the village notice, and send out the mail, and they have those themselves, and that's a lot of money. So I do believe if they're going to say we should open this, we do our job, do it after our meeting. But who did decide, where did the $1,000 come?
With the $1,000, what everyone should realize is this law, about the only component of this local law that was crafted locally is the requirement to wear a mask in the business area where social distancing is not possible. So between Thayer Street and Pine Boulevard on Main, between Lake and Church on Pioneer, where businesses have set up tables for vending and dining. That's the only component. The rest of this law, including the $1,000 fine and higher, are all already laws in New York State. They are already part of the laws that have been passed on this. So let me reassure that having spoken to our enforcement officers, this is not going to be the sort of thing where it's a gotcha. You know, there's going to be signage warning people. Hopefully, we've educated them. It's going to be an education process, ensuring that everyone realizes the need and the importance, so that we don't have to close down again, because that is the possibility if we spike. So it'll be an education process, and as I say, they'll have a supply of free masks to hand out. That fine and ticket is not the first recourse, but it is there because our friendly suggestion of masks on Main in June did not work. So there has to be some teeth there.
Can I present to that, Ellen?
Yeah.
That is excuse me, that is maximum.
Yeah.
This is up to the discretion of the justice or judge hearing it. We hope we've elected judges and justices with reasonable common sense. I perceive that possibly the fine will be minimal. I know in Key West, the minimal fine is $100. I don't know if it even has to be that high, but I certainly could see somebody who is argumentative or recalcitrant and takes the mask that we give them and throw it on the ground, getting a $1,000 fine. So I think it's going to depend on the reaction of the person when they deal with the police and the judgment of our judge or justice.
Thank you, Richard. That's, again, if you read the law, it says up to $1,000. Again, none of this is coming to the village. We don't have a court. It would be adjudicated in the town of Otsego if it got to that point. And because that is largely New York State law, the town court might keep a handling fee, but the bulk would be going to New York State. We're not looking at a profit motive here, let me assure you. Next.
My name is Jim Gore, I'm at 52 Chestnut Street. John, neighbor. I moved here from Los Angeles a year and a half ago, and it's La La Land out there, and it's crazy. Three children are out there, they don't know what to do next, because no one's adhering to anything out there right now. I'm so proud to be a resident of Cooperstown, and yesterday, or Saturday, I took a stroll, actually from my home on Chestnut here. I counted 72. Let's just say, I don't know whether they're residents or not, but there were 72 people in the White House within a half hour who weren't wearing a mask. And I think it's disgusting. I think, anyway, bottom line is I'm all in favor of the mask, 100%. And what I can do to help, I really know about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Team has dealt with that. I just want to commend the board for taking this action. I think it's definitely something that's important. Having run the command center for H1N1 and Ebola, we cannot be too careful. No matter what the numbers are now, we cannot be too careful. So I really want to thank you for this. Yeah, both in favor of it, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Brittany. Anyone else? No. Okay. I realize we focused on the mask law. We actually have two local laws for this public hearing. The second one pertains to refuse. It's a revision of our existing law pertaining to refuse dumped on public property. I put my finger on it right at the moment. Are there any comments on that law? Have I given everyone who wants a chance to speak the opportunity? As if I will close the public hearing. All right, the public hearing is closed. Why don't we begin with the proposed local law number 6 of 2020, amend chapter 240, section 240-5, prohibition on deposit of refuse debris on village property.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Cindy, second by Matt, all in favor?
Aye.
Let us move on to proposed local law, and it will now be 7 of 2020. A local law creating chapter 241 of the Code of the Village of Cooperstown to require the use of face masks and face coverings to prevent the spread of infectious disease.
I so move.
I would like there to be an opportunity in case any board members want to comment. So can I start with you, Cindy, and we'll go around? Are there any thoughts or anything else you want to see change other than the 6 I mentioned?
Did you mention the change that Bill Waller had suggested clarifying public property?
Boy, that's a good catch. I might not have gotten that one.
241-4.
Yeah, it was in 241-4, and I'm sorry if I overlooked it. It was on my list. This again came from a village resident who had a question about something and had the opportunity to discuss it with the village attorney, who also checked with the state. As I remind everyone, the bulk of this law is already New York state law. We're just kind of reiterating it in here. In 241-4, face masks or face covering required on private property. In the 3rd line, it is recommended that we insert these words. So including but not limited to inserting public areas of residential property. That kind of resolved the issue that Bill had. Thank you, Cindy. The reason for that, as I say, again, this is crafted by New York State, and they were looking at that. They were thinking of individual homes in Manhattan. This was actually the logic behind it. They were looking at apartment buildings. So that's why they were saying you could enter in there to the public areas of the apartment buildings. Obviously, that's not here. So we will add that as well. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to speak to some of the points that Mark brought up about high touch surfaces, because I think those are important points. We're certainly continuing to learn more about how COVID is transmitted, and droplets are appearing to be much more of a concern than surface contact. But there are certain things that we've been doing to ensure that our high touch points are more safe. So for instance, at the traffic light, as it was originally installed, if you wanted the walk button to appear, you had to push a button for that to happen. We had that change so that now the walk sign comes up automatically to prevent people from having to push that. For our parking kiosks, we are of course encouraging people to buy parking permits. You don't have to interact with them at all, but we have been talking to our supplier about ways to make those safer. We're looking at pay by phone, but that's a complicated transition to make and can't happen on a dime. So we continue to explore that. And I think adding the hand sanitizer for those who don't already carry it to Pioneer Park is an important component of personal hygiene as well that helps with the touched surface aspect of COVID.
Jim?
I would just like to say that I support this 100%. I would also like to say that I would like everyone to know that a lot of work has been put into carefully crafting every sentence that the village has control over in this law, and I am very happy with it.
Thank you, Jim. Richard?
I of course, very happy that we're taking this step. We did try a public relations campaign to show you how successful it was. number of people in the here and in their letters were not aware of it. So if we were not aware of it, it was unlikely that the visiting public was going to be aware of it. I have heard arguments, well, why Main Street? Why not extend it everywhere? To be frank with you, if I had my way, we would. I don't find that a legitimate, I find that what's the word, de minimis argument, Joe? An argument, it doesn't make any sense. We're trying to do what we can to eliminate contact where there's been recognized high contact. As the gentleman said before, I've gone down Main Street and counted 20 or 30 people not wearing masks and coming within 6 feet of other people. I've seen people with masks around their necks and they don't pull it up. I've seen people who don't have masks anywhere where they could possibly put it on quickly. We have a broad village population. Ultimately, what's important in all of this, yes, it's important economically, but in my opinion, if we don't keep the barn door locked, if we wait till let the horses escape from the barn door to lock it, we're gonna have a hell of a time controlling it. Our numbers are gonna go way up, and then we're gonna go back to restrictions imposed by the state. I think we're better off doing something like this than waiting for the state to say, close everything down again. I think our businesses are better off that way. And I certainly think our hospital is better off not having to kick out everybody but COVID patients. So I'm very strongly in favor of this.
Me? I am also very in favor of this. I think it's going to benefit. I think it's going to make people more comfortable in our downtown. And so I think it's going to benefit businesses more than not. And I do like the addition of the stationary, people being able to stand still and look at ice cream cone, because that was a concern of mine. So I like that addition.
Matt?
It's well crafted, and I'm happy to support it.
Joe?
I too support the bill, and to the extent of comments asking that we extend the mandate to Lake Front Park and other areas of the village, I think we've started out carefully and deliberately, and I'd like to see the effect of this business district legislation and see how the effect of people complying there spills over into their visits to the lakefront before we have to impose more. This is meant to be an educational process to move care and motive under housing and the common interest of everyone. But we don't want to be, like I say, this is educational and encouraging, but it does probably happen. I do have a couple of points. I propose it, not clear that we've done that. Have we adopted the definition of masks in first years?
That was a change in the law, so the definition at 241-2 now reads, masks and face coverings include but are not limited to cloth, that is homemade, sewn, quick cut, bandana, end of parentheses, surgical masks, N95 respirators, and face shields, comma, any one of which must cover the nose and mouth for wear.
The second comment I had was on the first point was by Susan 241-4. Just in terms of adversarial interpretation, the idea of public areas of residential property, residential property in the village is private property. I understand we have garden apartments, and there are common areas of the garden apartments that I think we can pay people to wear masks in the presence. So, public, I suggest reconsideration of use of public and speak of the common areas. Otherwise, I'm not sure what is a public area or private area, your front yard or still your private property.
The village attorney indicated that it was like a lobby area. So it may, again, it might not wholly be applicable to us. I will say that our village attorney who crafted this and could not be here took a lot of time and talked to the state. He's also a member of the American Bar Association Municipal Law Division. And he worked with that advisory committee. In fact, they watched our last meeting and commented on certain things, which, you know, he had included in here. So they were with 100% in agreement on our public areas of residential property. I am not inclined to change it.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's all I have.
The only question I have, and I'm sorry, John, you're still here. I was a little unclear on what you were recommending in I.
My concern is that you're taking out a number, saying that our state's experiencing severe COVID outbreaks. How many states? It's a number that varies every time there's a change. And I think without any number in there, it could create a basis for saying the law is too vague and not enforceable. Because if someone comes from state A and it's not on the list, and another person comes from state B and is on the list, who's going to be fine? Who's going to be able to be fine? I think the list has to be. The governor puts out a list all the time, what numbers there are. But to make the law enforceable, I think it should say from the United States, travelers from U.S. states designated or nominated by the governor of the state that are experiencing severe, because it's a floating number, I think.
I agree with your concept that it's always a floating number, and it would probably be better. But how does that affect this law? This law means everybody's got to wear a mask. I mean, I'm all in favor of the quarantining law and having that enforced also. Don't misunderstand me, but that's not what we're discussing here.
We're talking about self-quarantine. You want to try this?
Right, this is in, and, you know, I'm not an attorney, and I certainly wish our village attorney could respond to that. I know, as I said, he felt very comfortable after talking to the state and municipal law council, how that worked. That section is really findings and purpose. It's not calling on us to enforce, per se, the travel advisory. That's a state travel advisory. So they will, you know, are the ones who require. I don't know if there's a way we could alter that wording slightly, make it better.
I think we could say the governor has announced a travel advisory which requires travelers from U.S. states identified by New York State as experiencing severe COVID-19
Perfect.
outbreaks.
Perfect. As experiencing, perfect. So we will insert there, identified by New York State as experiencing, right after U.S. State. So thank you, Joseph. Right. If there's no more discussion, is there a motion?
I make a motion to pass proposed local law number 7 of 2020, a local law creating chapter 241 of the code of the village of Cooperstown to require the use of face masks and face coverings to prevent the spread of infectious disease.
Motion made by Richard, seconded by Cindy. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you, members of the public, for participating. It's appreciated. All right, so moving on to other business. We are considering the extension of 3 Fridays for free parking in double-day parking lot through Columbus Day weekend. Right now, we have it expiring August 28th, I think. And so we are considering extending free parking in double-day parking lot through Columbus Day weekend in conjunction with our Cooperstown Outdoors special event permit. In recognition to help us in that decision, you have received in your packet today the parking data, updated parking data. So you might want to refer to that. Cindy, do you want to make any comments?
I'll just point out what I pointed out at our regular meeting, and that is that we're seeing a pattern in paid parking that's very different than what we see when Dreams Park is in session in terms of how our paid parking is used. During Dreams Park, we see spikes on Wednesday and Thursday. Without the Dreams Park, we go back to what had been our fall sort of trend, and that is really to see Saturdays as our biggest day, followed by Sunday. So we're seeing weekend travelers. Friday, as you can see, I tried to sort of estimate what we would be collecting based on percentages in Doubleday. If we were charging for parking in the Doubleday lot, the numbers are fairly small during the week. And I think that's something to keep in mind. I do think this is a way to either encourage weekend travelers to extend potentially another day, or what we really want is to see our residents and people from the area have reason to come down on Friday. And I would suggest extending through the end of the paid parking season.
I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Richard. Any other discussion and thoughts on it? All those in favor, say aye. And we have one more order of business to review the offer of a dormant Facebook page, Cooperstown, New York, for transfer to the village of Cooperstown. And you had a letter in your packet on that from Garrett Livermore. Is there any comment, discussion?
How would we use that?
Excuse me?
How would we use that?
Thinking about it, that is one reason that the village has never kind of gotten into it, because we don't have the staffing to monitor this. I think without a doubt, if we take it on, the sort of comment section has to be disabled, because we do not have the staffing to someone who's sitting there responding to information and trying to provide factual information in these. So we would probably not have a comment session. It actually could be very easy and just another avenue to the way we disseminate information electronically now, because we have Kyle Fabiano as our kind of IT person who puts things on the website. He could also just instantly put it on Facebook. So it's just creating more venues for the public to see information.
When I spoke to Kyle this morning, he said it could automatically be transferred if it's linked to the website page. So it would just, when you did one, it would automatically
Disseminate information.
Yes.
To disseminate information, it's not where this type of public hearing takes place.
So I would also recommend if you choose to do that, that is also used to amplify local businesses and organizations. Understanding the comment section is disabled, but not just disseminating that, oh, there's a public hearing or here's a link to our Facebook page, but potentially, being able to use it to amplify what we have here.
I have a response to you, Mac.
Sure.
How does that interact with the Chamber of Commerce basically doing the same thing? Who gets to be on this and who doesn't?
Sure. I mean, I think it kind of caters to different audiences. I think the Chamber of Commerce, I think, while people from all over, I'm sure, do follow the chamber, it's really a locals thing. But if you go to any place in the country and ask 10 people if they know where Cooperstown is, at least 8 of them are going to say yes. And I think that it just caters to a different audience, perhaps, I would think. I guess that's how I would justify it.
At the current time, I'm sorry.
That comes up at an interesting time with Facebook itself being so controversial. One criticism I've heard of our general communication is we have too many. We have Celebrate Cooperstown, we have our own website. Some people want to go to their own and then follow links to wherever they want to get from recreation to business. And I'm wondering if Facebook, taking on the Facebook page would kind of impair our ability to hear cohesive messaging. My own view is, I guess I would prefer to work with what we have. If you want to say Cooperstown.org, if you want to change our, so people who don't know about VOC.org, we have a more familiar associational address to relate to them. I'm not sure the value or even desirability.
It is Cooperstown, New York. It's not Village of Cooperstown. And to me, that was my first thought when he offered this, that it is not consistent messaging.
Yeah.
It is not consistent messaging because it's Cooperstown, NY and not Village of Cooperstown.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually argue against what you said, Joe, and that is that part of the reason why I feel that there's too many, why people go to Celebrate Cooperstown, or they go to allatsego.com, or they go to Friends of the Parks, is because there is no village presence on Facebook. And so I feel like if there were an official word, then you wouldn't have to rely on those private information spreaders to find out what's going on at the village.
My thought was that if we reorganize our own website, everything about our company and our company programs that people would be interested in would be accessible through that. The more I think about it, commercializing our public communication through Facebook is the less desirable. Maybe we should just buy those, keep taking the transfer of the name and put it on the shelf so nobody else can use it.
Jim?
I don't use Facebook. I like to think I'm busy enough. But I don't have particularly good feelings about Facebook in general. And I think it's something that could, of course, you can control, I suppose, what goes in and what goes out. It seems to be one more thing that could possibly go wrong and bite us. I'm not sure. Other people are more in tune with that. But I tend to agree with Joe, but maybe it's because we're a little on the older side. I don't know.
Well, really, the only thing before us now is, do we want to assume this? There seems like, and I think there could be a possibility for a Facebook page, but I would like to see it with the same messaging as our website. So it's Village of Cooperstown.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Why? It would seem to me that the only organization who could possibly get a Facebook page called the Village of Cooperstown is the Village of Cooperstown.
Right. This is not what this is. This is Cooperstown.
I know. That's why I'm saying maybe it's not appropriate exactly for the village for this
The
title.
name can be changed in the account. You can change Cooperstown.
Right, and we could establish
Whatever.
our own.
I don't know what to say.
Assuming this without having to take.
But there's nothing on this one. Leaving it out there and creating another one.
It's been, as best I can tell, it's been dormant for about 10 years. It was used in 2008, 2009, and has basically been sitting around since then.
So if we did take it on, we could probably change the name to Village of Cooperstown, and there's really be.
But would there be a reason why?
But
we
then
take
why-
it on
where's
and
the
change
reason
it? Why
to
don't we
take
just
it?
create our own?
Sorry, I take that back.
Because it's already out there and then it already exists.
But it's been dormant for 10 years, so it really isn't anything that's out there.
But then no one else would use Cooperstown, New York. Like if we take it and change its name, then it doesn't exist anymore, and there isn't a chance that
And
there's
we
a.
change its name to Village of Cooperstown. No one can come along and do Cooperstown, New York, because now we've changed it to Village of Cooperstown.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a little few unknowns here, Richard.
I'm gonna have to recuse myself on this vote, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you turn it down, I'm gonna take it. Wait, let me finish, because I didn't know this existed, but knowing that it exists now, I think we have to, the village has to control it. Somebody else knows it exists now, and somebody else will take it. I'm gonna talk, I want you to understand, I say this because I suppose it's against my own personal interest.
Except the administrator, the current administrator is the one who would be passing it over or not.
We're under the village is under no obligation to do anything with it, right? They just sit there for another 10 years.
Right. Could we could have a vote, could we have a clarification though, if we do change a name, what happens? Does that now mean that one is open?
Probably.
Yeah, I would think it probably.
Yeah, I don't think we have totally all the information.
Can I just make one?
Unless we take it and then think about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So,
I don't know.
I don't remember who it was, but made a reference to whether or not municipalities should get into using Facebook. Just with a quick search of the Facebook Google bar, or the Facebook bar, Village of Walton, Village of Johnson City, Village of Milford, Village of Greenwood Lake, Village of Cherry Valley. It is extremely common and is the way of the 21st century.
It's funny you should mention, I believe it was Walton. Did you read about that in the paper just recently?
The mayor.
Yeah.
And his obscene racist comments, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Ella.
There was an article in the Daily Star about the mayor of a community, and I believe it was that one, that posted very.
I do believe it was on his personal page. I was found.
You can block that stuff.
All right, is there a motion at this point?
I'll make a motion to go forward with it.
Seconded by Jane.
When I asked for clarification, go forward with it, are we going to accept the, and then hold the side of the agreement?
Correct.
Accepting the offer.
This is just accepting the offer. The mechanism is not defined at this point. We could, in that way, we could then have a motion to set up our own separate if we wanted that said Village of Cooperstown.
I'm gonna ask you to restate the motion, but my recommendation for the benefit of the village is to accept the offer, control it, and do nothing with it.
That's not my recommendation.
I didn't say that. This is my recommendation. I couldn't hear you before.
State your motion again. Could you state the motion again?
Well, essentially written right here. I'm agreeing with you, Ellen, that we should acquire it. What we do after that is.
Well, we're just reviewing the offer, so what are you
Sure,
saying?
my motion is to accept the offer, to acquire the Facebook page. And is that the motion? That's the motion you're looking for, correct?
Yeah.
You made the motion.
I'll second that.
No, the what is written right here is to accept the offer and then review it and go forward. My personal opinion is that of course we should absolutely have a municipal Facebook page. I'm saying we should just acquire the one that already exists, and then what we do after that is.
Do you have a clear understanding of the motion? What is the wording, Terry?
To accept the offer to acquire the Facebook page.
Period. The Cooperstown, New York Facebook page. Okay, so that's the motion. Doesn't say anything to do with it. And it is seconded by Jean. All those in favor? No, Richard opposed?
I have to recuse myself.
Oh, recuse, okay, Richard. Okay, there's one other element here of business, and that is the signage, which was discussed. And also, table. So we begin with the last attachment, which is, now these are for the
sandwich boards.
The sandwich boards. Your last page at a cost of $218.16 before shipping and handling are 12 signs which would go on the plastic sandwich board signs. Is there a motion to approve that? So moved by James, second by Matt, all in favor? Okay.
Is there just, in terms of, back of the sign, you put the sandwiches on it, do you want to notify people when they're leaving the snack zone?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Joe.
Do we want to notify people on the back of the sandwich when they're leaving the zone?
No. This is, both sides say the same
Preferably
thing.
after they leave, the public is aware.
Joe, if they see the sign coming in, they'll probably figure it out going out.
So what's on the?
It's double-sided, so
It's a sandwich board, so this sign would go on this side, this sign would go on.
So it's not a perimeter.
It's to a degree at the perimeters, but it's also, there'd be one at Main Chestnut intersection.
minor part.
Finer part of the day. Yeah, it specifies. That was one reason we didn't order it in advance. All right, so the motion was made and seconded. All in favor? Okay. The other signage is from the motion that was, or the discussion that was tabled at our last meeting. And this is for entry signs. Is that it, Jim? Is this yours?
This is your motion, Jim.
Oh, yeah, thank you for bringing this up. I would like to say something just going in. Two things that I'd like to just point out. I did suggest for consideration, black on white. I would reconsider that, the color to be determined. It may not be strong enough. And secondly, this is just for, this is approximately the idea of the wording and signing, but it's not the exact. So I'm also suggesting that this would be tweaked. But I appreciate the general concept of considering signage coming into the village. And this generally is close to the message, but it might need to be tweaked a little bit. Or do you need to, do you need to vote exactly?
What is it you, I feel hesitant to approve a motion if I don't know the wording of the sign.
Well,
I
it's just
thought
that,
this is.
okay, we can, it's just that this was done by the printer. It wasn't exactly the way I submitted it. So I'm fine 100% with the text. It's just that some of this may be.
Oh, you're talking about the font itself. The wording is fine. The font you might want to change.
Yeah, yes. The wording
okay.
I think is fine for me. Yeah. And my
All right,
suggestion.
so this is the accurate wording you're looking at here.
Yes.
You have the estimate, which is 5 of these signs with freight comes to $848.60. And as Mitch appended to this, there are funds in traffic control equipment budget line. Cindy.
I am concerned that there are too many words on this for people to take in at 30 miles per hour. And if we're going to spend $800, I would almost assume get another banner and put it over Main Street that alludes to our mask law than to put something at all the entrances to the village, because while I think that is a good place to put signage, I don't think it's a good place to tell people about laws, having missed laws that were advertised at those entrances myself.
So, if the reason, okay, if I may. And if you want to eliminate the bottom line, I can understand that for clarity. Just the reason I put that in there is that people then have no excuse and they cannot say, I did not know where to find the local law. This makes them responsible for knowing exactly where the local law can be found from their telephone, so they cannot say, I did not know where to find the law.
Just a thought, for the economy of language, COVID-19, local law, mask wearing and social distancing required, Cooperstown.org, NewYork.org/mass. You don't have to go in there to find that. That's the information you can find. The law
It's interesting.
is, it's in effect.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell them it's in effect because it's state, it's a local law, and it's an asking distancing required. So you say a few words there.
Well, all right, before we get into wordsmithing this, I want to know if there is majority board approval to expend these funds for signs at the entrance, 5 signs at all the entrances to the village. Let's begin there.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
You may, okay. Seconded by Jean. All those in favor of signage at the entrances with the exact wording to be tweaked, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry, 4. So there's 4 votes.
Are you?
Are you a vote?
I'm a vote for.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
4, you're 4.
Richard, you were yes, right?
No, I'm a no.
Oh, you're not,
You're a no. Okay.
You're no, sir?
I'm a no.
And I was a no, not that I know, but, okay.
I didn't hear that side of tonight. I thought,
What?
I didn't hear
Oh.
no votes, I heard no discussion, I would have been interested.
Ellen didn't see my hand.
I didn't
She
see
thought
this.
there were only 3 yeses. I voted yes also.
I'm gonna suggest that we're not clear on this, and we need to take.
Yeah, we are clear. The motion is, do we expend, with wording to be determined later, $848.60 to purchase 5 signs for the entrances to the village? Those who favor doing that, raise your hand. That's a yes. There's 4. Those opposed, no.
And during the discussion, I was trying to explain, I didn't know there was another side to this discussion, that there was an opposition to signage. I didn't hear any discussion of that, that's all.
Well, they didn't really express.
We did discuss that Cindy mentioned that a banner over Main Street, spending the funds on a banner over Main Street might be more effective than having signage.
The first one was.
I didn't see the need for the exclusion, I did both.
Well, we do have a limit on the, if we wanted to expend that money, where would you expend it?
So how did we try that? Yes.
So how are we working out the wording?
I like Joe's, I think it's true. Fewer words is better.
Getting rid of in effect and then getting rid of flying local law, laying that, and just have the web address and COVID-19 local law.
So one of my concerns is this saying mask wearing and social distancing required. So throughout the rest of New York State, if you can social distance, you don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
But we just passed a law that requires mask wearing.
In addition,
How about 4?
No, mask wearing required.
What if? Yeah.
okay. Go ahead, Matt.
So I totally get that point. Mask wearing in the business district is essentially just about the same amount of letters. If we're wordsmithing it, but.
Okay, Joe.
The key message here is that we have a local law. And the local law requires mask wearing and social distancing. It doesn't say or social distancing. It says mask. If you want the details, you'll find it. You'll find it if it's not changed. So I think that it's not redundant to what the state is doing. We're blazing on our sign as a local law. So
I was
the other requirement.
certainly comfortable with it as well.
Jim.
I mean, I could see eliminating fine local law act. It's move Cooperstown.ny.org mask to the center. And I did put the word "and" because I believe that mask wearing and social distancing. I understand if you want to eliminate the "and" put "or," but that's not appropriate, I don't think. So The point is to deliver the message to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible.
All right, it's been approved, so we're just refining the text. Richard?
Local law, masks required. The fewer words, the better. Or to quote a recent phrase, speak less, smile more. Or fangs, anyway.
No one can see this smile.
They can tell by your eyes.
Okay, have we agreed on text? I can't. Guys, I think you can, I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Tonight, very appreciated.
It seems to me that what our law does is say.
I can take that.
Our ways are looking at have to be public. So I don't think we should just say mask wearing, and then not mention social distancing, because that suggests everybody involved is wearing masks and it's going. So, what we have done in our law, that yes, is limited to the business district, and you can find that detail in Cooperstown.org/masks. But the main message is mask and social distancing are required. So I'm comfortable with it.
The other thing that I'll point out is CooperstownNY.org/mask doesn't currently exist.
But that's easy to create as a redirect.
Sure, but it would need to be done.
It's a simple, it's a simple.
Okay, so can someone please tell me what the sign now reads?
COVID-19 local law.
Yep.
Mask wearing and social distancing required, then down along, Cooperstown.org/mask.
Okay, we can eliminate the /mask because if they go to Cooperstown.org, it's going to be on the front page.
Yeah, but if they want to read
Yeah, it can't be on the law, because I don't think anybody looks beyond.
No, I don't think so either.
You're gonna, it's on, there's notice on there now, right?
Pardon me?
There's a link on there now on the front page.
Yes, but
And I understand about eliminating extraneous words and letters. So where are we at?
Okay, was there discussion on that? I didn't hear it. CooperstownNY.org/mask.
No,
No,
you
we
can eliminate the
eliminated
/mask.
/mask.
Eliminate /mask.
No.
What do you think?
I think, what I think after my experience the last couple of days, people do not go beyond the homepage.
They do
Okay.
not.
So
They do not.
if you want to see it, post it on the homepage.
Just take off the /mask, take that out. I would take out find local law act. I take that out too.
Yeah, so here is the wording. COVID-19, local law requiring mask wearing and social distancing.
Requiring or
Required, I'm sorry, required.
Requires.
In effect is out. COVID-19 local law. So, I'm sorry.
COVID-19 local law.
Period. That's all one line.
Yeah, I think you all mine
Okay, mask wearing and social distancing required. CooperstownNY.org.
Correct.
Perfect, got
May I ask a technical question? When I go to find a specific statute or document,
They're going to read it. It's 5 feet across and 2 feet high.
But what Terry said, and I will agree with her, because we had to move this law and this information on the public hearing to the very first page. People do not go past a certain point. They would have found it under Board of Trustees and local laws. But they did not, so we'll put it right on the front page.
And that was put right in the public hearing notice. It was Cooperstown NY/Board of Trustee meetings. If they'd have typed that whole thing in, they'd have come to it, but they didn't.
I did that. I didn't go anywhere.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so I believe that was our, yes.
Do we want to, with the concern that we heard about how people will know, do we want to consider another banner?
Can I say
That
that?
banner, you can't even read.
This banner was.
This banner, you can't read.
Almost.
It does anything, honestly.
If you stop your car like right in front of it, you can read, but it, yeah, it's just not.
I think you gotta be almost eye level to.
If we could get a banner that says wear a mask required, that would be great.
Tim?
Are we approving or not black on white, or is the color done too?
I mean, that's what the quote was for.
I know, it's true, and I can go along with it.
Yeah, that's what your quote
Yeah,
is
yeah,
for.
that was my original thought, but you know, sometimes I get questioned, I think.
I have one clarification. Is COVID-19 going full, like, on the same line as local law?
I think it should be on single.
Is it easier to read next to it, or is it easier to read it stacked?
It'd be easy to read first. COVID-19, local law, boom. They're gonna read it, boom, boom, boom.
I like that better.
They're not reading a paragraph, they're reading.
So I hate to edit
I
like.
have it down to 3 words.
All right.
Do we get to see I would like to see, if it's all right with everybody else, I'd like to see the final layout before we.
Get approved.
Get
Yeah,
approved,
we can get approved.
and everyone can look at it.
Yeah.
But let's not belabor this, or we'll be out of the pandemic before we write a sign.
Did you say?
All right, so we are back to
I'll get
Cindy
approved.
has recommended a banner. Is there further discussion?
I guess if we did a second banner, I feel like it needs to be completely different than what we have.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No, that's what she's saying.
Much simpler in the wording. No superfluous images.
Matt.
Another banner would be great, Cindy. It just obviously can't have.
Yeah, so much stuff. Yep.
I was about to say, next one, we just gotta consider it. I mean, to say, we're trying to message. And this is ground zero, you know, we're part of the business district, and this is where our law lives.
So I would
Why
say,
not have the same reminders right there, the thing that they saw at the outskirts of town, and now see where there's a much more. That's, and you're not confusing, messages have to be consistent.
but I don't know if it should say and social distancing in the business district.
So,
That's not the law. The law's about wearing masks. It's not about social
Yeah.
distancing. Local law, masks required.
That would be-
Fines up to.
I mean, you could argue that the banners are more directed to the business district than not to the other side of town.
Well, the local law does say it's supposed to be social distance. I mean, people in Lakefront Park are supposed to be social distance. People who get off Main Street are supposed to be social distance.
I think it's advantageous to say it. It's better to say it than to not say it.
I will point out that we are still working on the banner poles, so perhaps we should put off this discussion until we know that they actually work.
All right, there we go. So, thank you, Cindy. That's a
And we
good
can
effort.
hope maybe at our next meeting. we can-
Yes. You know, it'd be advantageous, I think, is if you checked with, it was, who was it who did it, Prolific?
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Because, yeah, if Prolific, because I know when I've had banners in the past, they can take off vinyl lettering, if it would save us anything, because I know that banner otherwise would have been very expensive, but you got it for like 500, but if we can reuse anything, that would be instrumental in finding out.
Yep.
Yes.
we have a banner up right now. Aren't the banner poles working fine? Why are we pulling?
The banner that is up now is on the old wire between buildings. The engineers who designed our banner poles have made some interesting choices, and there's actually going to be a trial run to see if the wiring on it will actually work.
Thank you.
All right, if that's that, then I will entertain a motion for an executive session for the work history of a particular individual.
So moved.
Moved by Cindy, seconded by Tim, all in favor?
Can we move around? Can I move over there to one of those chairs?
You can sit anywhere you want, Tim.
Ellen, you need to just kind of.
There.
I'm doing it.
She's doing it. Let's take care.
Just asking.
start when I get informed.
When she gets the, okay, from Tyler, please.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve advertising the position of deputy clerk treasurer.
Made by Cindy, seconded by Joe, all in favor? I don't think there's any more business, motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Thank you, everyone.
You realize, of course, the discussion of the sign moving took longer than the actual passing of our discussion of the.
Yes. Yep.
We've been doing that lately.